Moss.
Maurice.
Maurice Moss should definitely be the 12th Doctor.
Yeah.
Hands
Guys,
down.
what's up? You did not have my permission to use Evil Muzz, okay, in any of the NerdKO videos, and you did anyway.
Evil Muzz was your idea.
Seriously.
I mean, I guess, yeah, I should be flattered that you use my likeness, but I'm already doing videos, okay, and I don't need you stealing my image to use them in your...
Receiving a telephone call. For the convenience of those around you.
Hello, Ellie? Yeah, I know. What? You too? Oh my god, this is... Naughty Dog, I can't believe them.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NerdKO. I'm Josh.
Not Muzz.
And we got a lot more cool stuff to talk to you about today. We're going to start off with video game movies that were slightly better than other video game movies.
Not that any of them are great.
Right.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft's reversal with the Xbox One and what we think it means for the industry and for the system itself and the future next generation, at least, of gaming.
Yep. And finally, I'm going to give my personal thoughts, first impressions, if you will, on The Last of Us, the latest from Naughty Dog, the awesome new survival action game, survival horror game that's out from them. So, let's go and take a look.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about some video game movies that aren't quite as bad as the other ones. I would say the best, but even the best in this category are pretty subpar.
It's pretty mediocre.
So we're just going to talk about some of the ones, though, that we thought were alright.
Yeah, passable.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't turn it off on USA Network if it happened to come on.
Right, and you were tied to a chair. So,
I know.
so go ahead, what do you got?
Okay, first one that I will say is, and it's cliche because I've talked about this in game form over and over, is Silent Hill. The first one, not the 3D one, that one was crap, but the first one was less crap. And the reason I'll say that is really what made it a good movie for me wasn't the movie itself so much as it was the behind-the-scenes commentary. Chris Gans showed such passion for the game, even though I feel like he made kind of a horrible film, but he was just so passionate about making sure that he got the look right, that the camera angles were faithfully recreated for the opening sequence of kind of overhead shots sweeping down the alleyway of Rose instead of James James or Harry? Oh, that's bad. I should know that. Harry. And basically, he just had this really kind of faithful dedication to making sure the look was right. The story was a pretty horrible amalgamation of a lot of the lore, but ultimately, it was one of those things I kind of put as at least someone making the effort, and in that way, kind of maybe opening some doors for a good video game.
Right. And then he followed it. They followed it up with.
Yeah, they again relegated a Pyramid Head to basically just a giant slap fight at the end of the second one, which is just atrocious. So, what about you? What do you got?
Well, I think that some of the easiest games to turn into movies are fighting games.
Right.
And I think that holds true when you look at some of the better ones. Mm-hmm. Of course, Mortal Kombat, I thought, was actually a decent movie. And I think they had the original writers, Boone and Tobias, they had them in on the writing. And Paul W.S. Anderson actually directed that, but he didn't have any part of the real creative process of making the movie, so it's not that bad for a Paul W.S. Anderson movie.
And I'll just, real quick in Mortal Kombat's defense, I'll say the special effects for the time were actually pretty good.
No, it was a good movie all around. I thought the fight choreography was pretty good. I mean, they took some liberties with the characters and stuff, but it was fun to watch.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the people who watched it and who were Mortal Kombat fans weren't as offended by that movie as you are with a lot of the other video game movies, Alone in the Dark or, House of the Dead or something. So,
oh, totally.
Yeah, so what's yours next?
The last one that I'll pick is actually Tomb Raider. And the reason I'm going to say that is because Tomb Raider, as a franchise, became kind of a cultural phenomenon in the 90s, or at least something iconic for gaming in the mid-90s. And really to have that kind of come to the silver screen, it was actually one of the more commercially successful video game adaptations. I think it made double whatever its initial budget was. I think it had an initial budget of I want to say 30 or 40 million or something like that, but it made everything back quite well. And I think that's really when the Angelina Jolie was kind of just the height of her popularity, and it was in that late 90s kind of time frame.
Yeah, so that was at the time where if you really needed someone to play white trash, you had Angelina Jolie, and that's kind of what she turned Lara Croft into. But overall, the movie wasn't as terrible as other video game movies.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at least watchable.
Yeah. Well, for me, and on another note, same movie, but Chris Berry was in it, and he plays Rimmer in Red Dwarf. He played Hillary, her butler.
Oh, okay.
So all my friends piled in to see it just for him.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you're okay with leather-clad white trash Laura, you know.
And I am.
A lot of people
Good
were, I
talk.
think. So, yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was watchable. The second one, not so much.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, bonus points in the second wasn't that when Daniel Craig was in it before anyone really cared about Daniel Craig?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda weird
I
seeing
didn't
him
even
now
think
that
of
I think
that.
about
Yeah,
that.
totally.
So, alright, what's your last one?
Okay, so this is one everyone hates.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the best video game movies ever made because it's true to game.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to really crap on the source material, and it's the DOA movie, Dead or Alive movie. I mean, look, I know what you're thinking. I mean, cinematically, you know, it's not a movie that you would look at and go, "This is a great movie," but
Right.
they stay totally true to the original DOA formula. We're talking girls in bikinis, we're talking beach volleyball, we're talking fighting, and that's the basic premise of the whole movie. And if you watch it, the characters are true to the video game characters pretty much, and everything's watchable.
Right.
You know, not that Dead or Alive was a great source for material anyway.
totally, yeah.
It was about as shallow as a puddle, but
Right.
when you get right down to it, it is a movie of a video game that is done pretty right.
Right.
So I liked DOA, and I've watched it a few times, and I own it. So
You say without shame.
why would I? Did you see Jamie Presley in that movie?
Woo! Oh, man.
Man!
Alright, so let us know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite video game movies? Even if they're absolutely horrible, we want to know what they are and why you think they have merit.
What's the best of the worst?
Yes. Alright, we couldn't in good conscience not talk about the Ellen Page thing and her getting upset about The Last of Us and them allegedly using her likeness, even though she's going to be starring in Beyond Two Souls coming up. But Ellen, we still love you if you're watching, so, you know, we just had to have a little fun with it. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that. What we will talk about today is The Last of Us. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit because this game just came out about a week or two ago. I've probably put about 10 to 12 hours in it so far, and wow, what an incredible game. This isn't a full-on review because I haven't finished the game yet, but first impressions are this is an amazing kind of return to form for the survival horror genre. I think some people call it like survival action, which I guess could be considered appropriate because the action of the game is really astoundingly good. You really have no idea how Joel's going to react to the environment and how he's going to utilize it when dispatching a foe, and that's one of the things that keeps the combat very fluid and interesting throughout. Now, as far as the story goes, that's really the most shining element of the game. I think we kind of saw a similar dynamic in Bioshock Infinite, obviously, because we also had like a, kind of like a male-female component thing going on there. But with Joel and Ellie, it's totally different. Ellie has just tons and tons of personality, and watching Joel, kind of this grizzled 20-year veteran of the apocalypse, and someone who's actually knew what the world was like before the apocalypse, paired up with kind of like the wonder of a child who doesn't really understand that there was a world before this one that they're kind of stuck in with zombies running around everywhere and danger lurking around every corner, is a really great dynamic, and it works really, really well. So far, the only criticism that I could really say that I have about the game is sometimes the controls feel a little bit stiff, but at the same time, if it were perfectly precise, it wouldn't really feel right either, because Joel's kind of an everyman, doesn't have any military training that we know of, so it does seem to be appropriate in that respect. But no matter which way you slice it, the story's amazing, the graphics are fantastic, and Naughty Dog has just done an incredible job with this game. If you have the means to check out, you should totally go do it. Look for a full review coming sometime later on, but for now, just know that it is absolutely worth your time to check out.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about Microsoft's big reversal on their DRM and online policies for the Xbox One. And this is really funny because this is something we actually talked about, the whole DRM thing, the whole online thing, in the last episode. If you haven't watched it, please go back and check. And we had to put an end to that segment.
Yeah, a little prematurely. We actually spent probably a solid 10 minutes kind of complaining about the steps Microsoft was taking to kind of place these restrictions on games with their use game policy, 24-hour check-in, and basically obliterating an entire section of the industry. And then, unless you've been living under a rock, Microsoft did this complete 180 and went back on everything and kind of bent to the demand of consumers who voted ultimately with their wallets and their opinions online.
Right, yeah.
I did have intention of buying it because I figured, kind of no matter what happened, I wanted to make sure that I could still experience the things that a lot of those developers were still working so hard on.
Yeah.
I would not have been happy about it because it clearly was taking kind of a wrong turn, and people ultimately kind of determined the fate on that. I think customers kind of voted for it.
Now, I, on the other hand, had no intention. As much as I love Fable, as much as I love Gears and Halo and a lot of the Microsoft exclusives, I had no intention of investing into it because I think it's everything that's wrong with the industry today.
Right.
And I think the only way I could take a stand was by pre-ordering a PS4, which
you did.
Which I did, yeah. Now, on that note, I have pre-ordered an Xbox One now.
Sure.
So it's I'm just not one of those guys who doesn't want to own a console because of the name. However, I was perfectly willing to not own the console for what they were doing, to kind of make my stand against the policies. And I'm really glad now that I get to spend this generation playing all the consoles like it should be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, so let me ask you this. Now that we've kind of gotten through that kind of ugly patch in Microsoft, very brief history in launching the Xbox One and kind of going back on all these things that turned a lot of people off to begin with, what do you feel, or how do you think their actual apology universal was done? Like, do you have any commentary that you would say about the way they chose to do it, or anything that they said?
I think they just had to do it the way they had to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They couldn't come out with a big, heavy-handed apology. Oh, we're so sorry for what we did, because that would just fire the fuel against them.
Right.
They just had to come out and say, oh, we listened to the gamers, and this is what we're doing.
Right, and see, that's pretty much my position on it is, kudos to Microsoft for sticking to their guns on their position, because they still believe in the model they originally set out to put in place, and they made that very clear in the apology letter. Mm-hmm. They said, well, we still feel this is where the industry's headed, we've heard the voice of consumers loud and clear, and we're prepared to kind of reverse our position.
So you say good for them for doing it, I say shame on them for having that idea in the first
place.
Well,
shame on them for having to do it in the first place, I guess, but to me, good on them for not lying to us or pandering to us, or being like, oh, you know what, no, you're right,
turns
this whole
out they
thing's
couldn't
horrible.
do it, yeah.
Right, because they could have easily been like, you know what, you guys are right, and this isn't where the industry should go. But no, they're just like, no, we still want it to go that way. But it's like you live to fight another day.
And I think it's also worth mentioning that this is something Sony wants to. This is an industry wide thing. It's not a Microsoft thing. A lot of people are you hear the Microsoft hate for it, and I hated the idea of Xbox One. So it's not like I'm a fanboy or I'm a Sony guy saying I'm saying I hated the idea, but Sony wants the exact same thing. All the industry would like to see that happen all the way around. Mm-hmm. And we've seen it when Sony patented technology that locked discs to a PS3 back in 2005. And that was big news. And everyone was like, oh, I can't believe it, I won't buy it. So it's not like, if you hate Microsoft and you're saying, oh, I hate Microsoft and this is an example of why, then you hate the industry, because this is where it's headed in the long run. Right. I will fight it as long as I possibly can. Sure. As long as I can play my games and trade and sell and own them forever, I will always choose the system that allows me to do so. But sadly, it is the future of gaming. It is. And I hate to see it. I hate to see it happen. I will just put up my guard and try to block it off as long as I can.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I have no delusions. I do believe that the inevitability is a pure digital distribution model. But you know what? We get to live for another generation. It looks like.
Yeah. So at least 8 more years.
Sure.
So
let us know what you think. What are your thoughts on Xbox's turnaround? Did it prompt you to order an Xbox One, or had you done it already? And to you, this is a huge step backwards because you were excited about something.
And do you think it will help Microsoft? I mean, they had a pretty big PR nightmare with the Xbox One originally.
Oh yeah.
And is this enough to fix it? That's the question. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so thanks for watching this episode of NerdKO. Stay tuned for the next episode where we do, I don't know, something else. We haven't even planned it yet, but it's going to be good, so stay tuned for it.
Yes, and to make sure that you don't miss out on anything good that we do, make sure that you subscribe to both of our channels. That's youtube.com/geekspodcast for me and youtube.com/L1games for Muzz.
And that's it. So how do you want to close this one out?
Ella, do you think that we should... We're going to do that.
Shush! This is important. God, you knew my schedule. Ellie, I'm so sorry. I know, it was crazy here tonight. I know, it's crazy. I know, you need a friend. You need a friend right now, Ellie. And I'm your friend. You can cry on my shoulder, and I'll be there for you. Because I'm your friend. Yes, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? You tell Muzz all about it. Yes, I know. Naughty Dog is wrong. You did not get my permission to use Little Muzz. Crap, really? I was so angry.
I know. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about...
You did not have my permission to use Evil Muzz in any of the NerdKO videos. I don't get it. I don't know where you're coming from. Yeah. I know, you need a friend. You need a friend right now, Ellie. They're just evil. We're going to sue them. Yes, absolutely. I know. Josh did the same thing to me. Okay, yes, absolutely. The Notebook. Yes, you bring the movie, I'll bring the ice cream. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. I know. They're wrong. That character isn't even as pretty as you. Not even as pretty as you. I bet they didn't do it to Willem. I know. We should call him. Let's call him. Conference call. We'll give him a piece of our minds. That's for sure. Gosh darn it.